So, very good morning to everyone here, and it's a warm welcome to everyone for this national webinar. So, it is a very proud moment to organize this webinar on nursing care perspectives, the paradigm shift during COVID-19. And it is organized for 4 days, and today we are having a second day session with our Honorable Pro VC Ma'am, Dr. Batmakali Banerjee, who is an eminent leader, and she trains many leaders, and she is a professor in psychology and management. I welcome you, ma'am, and I should thank you for accepting this session, and all participants are really thankful to you, ma'am, and we are waiting to listen to you. And also, I welcome all the participants all around the country. And it is a proud moment for the Amity University, Haryana. We are organizing national webinar. We all know we are people of all ages can be infected with this coronavirus. So we are in corona pandemic. The older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart disease, so all appear to be more vulnerable to becoming severely ill with the virus. The COVID-19 pandemic is undoubtedly a stressful event for the general public, which can cause mental health problems among public. And existing studies have shown that COVID-19 crisis can lead to dysfunctional anxiety among general public. When a person bombarded by daily stress, it disrupts their internal and external sense of balance, presenting challenges as well as opportunities. Resilience exists when the person uses mental processes and behaviors in promoting personal assets and protecting self from potential negative effects of stressors. In general, resilience is a positive adaptation after a stressful or adverse situation like COVID-19 pandemic. Psychological resilience is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope up with a crisis or return to pre-crisis status quickly. In simpler terms, psychological resilience in person allow them to remain calm during crisis or chores and to move on from the incident without long-term negative consequences. With this brief introduction, I think I hand over the session to Naveen to welcome our Honorable Pro VC ma'am.
Thank you so much, madam, for giving introduction to the topic. So I take a privilege to introduce ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Mr. Naveena Jayet, Assistant Professor of Amity College of Nursing, and today's moderator of webinar series. I welcome you all for the national webinar series on nursing care perspectives, paradigm shift during COVID-19, organized by Amity College of Nursing. We are delighted by your distinguished presence. Let me place my gratitude to our patrons. Without their support, event of such eminence is not possible. I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. P.V. Sharma, Amity University, Haryana, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, and respected Principal Ma'am Dr. A. Tamil Selvi, Amity College of Nursing, Amity University, Gurgaon, for constant support and guidance for this national webinar. Today's topic is psychological resilience, and our elated speaker needs no introduction. I will try to justify by saying few words. Dr. Padmakali Banerjee is known for outstanding leadership skills and holding the chairs of Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean Academics. Madam is a professor in management and psychology at Amity University, Haryana. Dr. Banerjee earned her doctorate from University of Delhi. Madam is a veteran scholar and prolific researcher who is a fellow of prestigious Somatic Ink Blot Society, FSIS US. Madam's research interests include optimism, well-being, curriculum design, entrepreneurship, and leadership studies. Madam is having impeccable experience of over 27 years in research, teaching, consulting, training, and academic administration. Madam head Center for BRIC Studies. This center is known for par excellence in research and outreach. Madam participated in many strategic decisions of university's academic processes. Madam spearheaded many innovative initiatives such as flexible credit system, industry academic integration, and internationalization in the university's environment. Madam piloted many skill development programs and she is internationally acclaimed. Madam is a recipient of prestigious Greenbelt Leadership Award from USGBC in 2018 for exceptional contribution towards environmental sustainability. Madam awarded by Indian School of Psychology Association Award of Excellence for promoting psychology. Dr. Banerjee authored many research papers and currently author of a book, The Power of Positivity, Optimism, and Seventh Sense, which was published by Sage, is a bestseller globally. This book is a must-read for those who are interested in knowing the power of optimism. Madam developed Optimism Index, which is a powerful tool to measure OQ, optimism quotient. Madam wishes to transform the world into a happier place by installing hope and optimism in today's youth. Madam, please grace us with your valuable input. Over to you, madam.
Well, thank you, Dr. Naveen. That was a great introduction. And first and foremost, I want to start by saying I was looking at the great title of nursing care. And I must say that nursing and care for me are synonymous. So first of all, for all the nursing and public health community out there, you should give yourself round of applause for what you are doing, each one of you. So I'm giving you on behalf and all my distinguished people from my team, and I must put across that, whatever in these times of crisis, whatever you do helps you to look at the future. So I must congratulate our worthy principal, Dr. Tamil Selvi, and her able team, including all the other faculty who are not able to see, but we have with us today Dr. Naveen and Ms. Kolia. So we are all looking forward that this community, this virtual community that has been built is going to always stay. And I must believe I must share with you that when you talk about, resilience, the very first thing is, in order to build that resilience, you need to possibly look at the kind of, power that you have in terms of building a network. So the very first step has been done. So I've just started sharing my screen. So Naveen, please let me know once the screen is shared.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah,
we can able to see.
Able to? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the first step has been met, where you have already, created this great network. So there are some lessons to be learned. Even before I go on to the topic of, psychological resilience, I must tell you that there is, so many lessons that we have learned. Not only we have talked about the warriors, the, people who helped out in this crisis, but there are so many lessons to learn in terms of what all can, we do. Did we know we had so much of resilience in us to handle this great pandemic? India being such a populated country. And if you really look at the statistics, you will see, although our numbers may seem high, but the way the recovery has taken place, it is one of the best examples of resilience. The second thing that I think that is very important, that you should learn from the past. For example, when the pandemic occurred worldwide, people looked back and saw whenever such big crisis like SARS and other crises that has happened, whether it happened maybe 100 years back in Spanish flu, what all were done. And people immediately looking back at the past. So in order to build your resilience, you need to look at the past experiences. So history becomes very important. So as a community of nurses, it is so very important to have the history of all kinds of, ailments and how people cope with such ailments. So I think one of the major aspects is that. Then we are looking at, that we have realized in this times of pandemic that we are an interconnected world. So now we know very clearly the sustainable developmental goals which has been set for all of you, where health and well-being, which is one of the third SDG becomes so very crucial and so very important. So keeping that in mind, the pandemic taught us that, you know, all those SDGs which were given to us, the global goals, has become very important now. So anything happening in one part of the world is going to affect the other part of the world. And then also what you learned was that there was a lot of power in each other, like connecting with your family, with your community, with people from your, you know, people even worldwide through our social media. So people also realized during these times the power of the social media. Then we also accepted the disruption in technology. Earlier, I do not think a lot of academic people would have been comfortable on a Zoom platform or any other technology platform to hold such a wonderful conference or a webinar. We were always hesitating. But what did COVID do to us? We changed our whole lifestyle and we moved ahead. So the way, you know, I must tell you that at Amity University, Haryana, when we started facing these challenges, when the COVID took place, we were very digitally enabled. So what happened was moving into the digital transformation, bringing the simulation that we have been talking about. And, you know, Dr. Tamil Silvi is along with me, and she will tell you that when we brought in these kind of simulation, were already there in nursing, you know, I would say education, but that is now got the speed. People realize that in order to, just like as a pilot, when you want to learn how to fly an aeroplane, you are doing it in a simulated environment. All the learning takes place there. Then you take off the best of the aircrafts. So similarly, even in healthcare, there is a lot of, you know, emphasis that can be now given to the online education, the connectivity, the simulation, the new technology, the way we, you know, going to have, we want to bring about a change in the way that, you know, nursing education or, you know, community sciences are taught. And finally, before I move on, is, you know, there we also realize that there is a lot of interdependence and everything is transdisciplinary. So earlier, whenever we spoke about entrepreneurship, we would talk about people who are creating a new product. But during the time of COVID, we realized that social entrepreneurship became very important. What does that mean? That we always have to solve a problem. So what became paramount during this time was the healthcare. So whether it was creating the best of the face masks or creating the kind of supply chain that was created in order to help the elderly, suddenly we have been doing so much of research on geriatric care. And during the COVID, it told us how important it was to have a very good supply chain in order to take care of the elderly. So that was a big takeaway. And finally, you saw that how one has to be ready to face the change and the chaos. So that's one of the most important thing. So as Dr. Tamil Silvi always mentioned, in the very beginning, she mentioned that while resilience is actually the strength, and this strength is within us, you know, it's innate, you're born with it. You learn from your experiential knowledge, you learn in your early childhood experiences, but this is the power, this is also an attitude which helps you to spring back from wherever you are. So, you know, when a very old gentleman, he was in his, I think possibly in his 90s, he was asked that please bless this young boy of 12. So in his blessing, not only did he say that you're going to live long and be happy, be healthy, but he said one very important thing, that every time you fall down, please get up and run. So I think this COVID time has told us that you have to face whatever challenges that we have and move on. So a little bit of an exposure that you all need to get to know. I'm sure you are, many of you are already educators. So you're very well versed with the concept of well-being. Suddenly, you know, for the last few years, I've been teaching both management and psychology for now more than about 27, 28, 30 years. And I've seen a, general shift. So when in the earlier times, when people were studying this discipline, people only talked about the disease or the absence of the disease. slowly people realized that, then a huge movement came when, Seligman and others started talking about, and the word became very popular, called positive psychology. Although I firmly believe there is no positive or negative, it is psychology, it is what you believe in. However, people started realizing, what about people who are above the threshold, who are not sick, but they do need care because they need to perform well, they need to be successful, they need to take good decisions in life. So holistic well-being became very critical. And even today, people who are doing well, and there have been studies which have proven that people who are undergoing this kind of a crisis, but who are well aware of their surroundings and well informed, and who are able to take care of those stressors around them, they are able to cope, not only cope, they develop a better immune system. So there is a connection between the nutrition that you take, the care that you get, the medication that you have, and the way you feel. So the well-being, one of the most important aspects in this well-being is about how you feel and what you can do with that feeling. And the interesting part is, it's all in our own control. Everything starts with your thought process, and how to handle those thoughts are critically important. So if you look at the constitutes, you have, autonomy. This is, of course, given by Riff in 1989, and that was the time that people started doing a lot of research in the area of how to remain happy and how to be well. And one of the reasons, I think, I feel that if I have to measure your optimism index as nursing community, I'm sure you are going to have a good result, because without being a positive and having a stable state of mind, you cannot become a caregiver. So according to Riff, we looked at, autonomy, the environmental mastery, the positive relationships with others. So I emphasize this a lot. When I talk about positive relationships with others, it's not just about the positive relationship that we have at home. It is about wherever you are, whether you are in your, professional community, whether you're interacting with, online, real time across the globe. How are you creating these now? Social communities are coming up. How do you create that kind of positive relationships through which what happens is energy becomes synergy. So you know what, it multiplies. So, and not only that, often on entrepreneurship accelerators, I often tell that people who are successful, they always have people around them. For example, I say to have a positive relationship around them, you need to create that kind of a network. I will touch upon that in my next slides, where I will delve into a little more deeper into that area. This purpose of life is like, having a compelling vision, a strategic vision, possibly your values, your terminal values. What am I born with? So I often call it design your life. What is the design of your life? What are you looking at life for? Life is not about just, moving from one step to the other, or moving on different hierarchy in your career, but to have a complete design of your life, that what I want to be. So the purpose of life becomes very, very critical. And moving on to that is the realization of potential. This is something that, as human beings, what happens, as typically I've seen in the area when people come for counseling, that we are too much self-critical. As a result, when you do a SWOT or a SWOC, you often try to look at your weaknesses, and you may have a long list of weaknesses around you. And you're very difficult, it is, even if you have to do this exercise while we are talking now, you will find it's very difficult for your own self to think about your strength. Because we move into that very self-critical zone. So something that we really need to inculcate is realizing what you're good at. What are your competencies? What are your skills? What are your abilities? So I often say that the KSA, knowledge, attitude, knowledge, skills, and abilities, the most important aspect after that abilities is another A, which is attitude. So realizing your potential and inculcating those capabilities that you are able to deal with. And like the last line is self-acceptance. Yes, I am a great communicator. but I accept that I take a little more time in learning a new software. So you have to accept and be ready to learn. Then if you look at the whole aspect, years back, Dr. Naveen mentioned, and when I was publishing this book, there's a whole story behind the book. This is a book called Power of Positivity, Optimism, and the Seventh Sense. And, very interestingly, year 2017, I think there was a whole study that was seen worldwide, that people where the depression as a problem was creeping into every profession, every individual. And as a nursing community, as healthcare providers, that even when a patient comes, or when you're counseling or you're caregiving, you will notice that if the sense of, mental stability is better, you're able to deal with them better. So one of the models that I came up with, this where I talked about these areas of, later on the model is also shown to you, but this areas where your positive emotion, which comes from your just feeling of happiness or joy, you're able to even smile getting up in the morning. That is also an example of how positive can you be. So one aspect of that well-being is your general sense of happiness, the general sense of joy, able to smile and talk to people, or even wake up and not just sending social messages or forwarding messages, but actually picking up a phone, talking to somebody, expressing a joy on small things. Like, you see, you go to your garden and you see lovely flowers and you want to share the joy with others. You're able to appreciate nature. So small things can give you joy. And most of these things that give us positive feelings are all free in the world. You don't need to pay money to feel happy. Second aspect is, of course, I always say, and in my social interaction also, I talk about engagement in a very deeper sense, that people who are engaged in what they do. For example, right now, the interaction that we are having, there is a mindful meditation, like, I'm completely with you. Although I cannot see you, each one of you, but I can feel your presence. So I'm completely engaged in what you do. So for example, whatever you are doing, whatever research, any project that you have in hand, any of the solution that you're thinking of, how much is your engagement on a scale of 1 to 5? Where do you put yourself? If you have a task at hand, are you deeply involved in the task? That's a very good example of engagement. And I already mentioned about relationships, which is creating that network around. That is an overall, all these other two, like meaningfulness, that you can only do things when it is meaningful to you. So either you are creating something or you are adding value to something, then it has to be meaningful. Only then that will give you that overall sense of optimism. And accomplishment is also about every achievement needs to be celebrated. Now, looking at the adversities around us, we all know, I don't want to rub it in, I don't want to tell you too much about it. In these last 6 months, it has played a havoc. We have gone through so much of troubles around in the world. We are reading only negative news. We are listening to the statistics that we see. We are seeing how hospitals are finding it so difficult to treat. We are seeing how some of the doctors and nurses have been ill-treated. We've also seen good things and good things happening. So adversities that people face are generally physical adversities, mental and emotional adversities, social adversities, and financial adversities. So if I take, for example, financial adversity, that if some sudden crisis happens and a new startup goes bankrupt, I can understand that there'll be a sense of, stress happening over a period of time. But, if that continues over a very long period of time, that gets converted into distress. And that is the killer. So what we need to do in our lives is you need to bring down those factors which are bringing you down and not able to help you to move ahead. Now, what happens in the typical wave that you look at is that state of overload that we can do no longer adapt to themselves, may evoke incompatible response tendencies such as approach and avoidance. We get so stressed out that you're not able to take a decision. You do not know. This is the kind of a typical conflict situation that in such kind of an adversity, you get a job in a good company, in say going to Navi Mumbai from say Bangalore, and you're in so much of a crisis because you're not able to take a decision, because you have given up. Your stressors have there's an overload of stressors, and you are under distress. Even distress is okay, but despair is what we have to be very careful about. So as a nursing community, as healthcare providers, as educationists, I think one of the areas that we really need to take care of is how do you bring down the despair, and how do you bring the coping abilities. Then you look at the end, when you are so much under stress and problems that we are looking at, there will be definitely a sense of less loss of productivity, personal and interpersonal difficulties. You face conflicts at home, at work. You're not able to deal with public also. Sometimes you go out, you'll see road rage, stress-related psychosomatic disorders, which you know about. You will have so many other problems that will crop up every time. Many of you may have witnessed that, every time there is such a big stress happening, you'll have a pain at the body, your shoulders will start paining. Some part of your body, you'll have your muscle numbness happens. People feel a lot of tingling sensation. So these are all, examples of stress. So the first thing, if people are having pain to a large extent, 50% you will see that, there will be causes would be related to sometimes stress. Now, of course, as you're all aware, we are looking at resilience, a class and phenomena characterized by the pattern of positive adaptation. I think this is like a miracle. It can work when you are able to adapt. So we are moving from reaction to adaptability. So where I often talk about, like, earlier people used to talk about, a volatile environment, uncertain environment. So I often now talk about, you can do a good search and read the article where now the new term is about VUCA 2.0, which now talks about vision and understanding. So I think which is very important. And the final A is in VUCA is adaptability. So you have to handle the chaos around. You have to handle. So these are certain things that can be built, can be learned. You can see, go back in history and read how people can bounce back. So here, if one word for resilience is ability to bounce back. So it's a lot to do with your attitude, lot to do with that you can change in life. So do a normative level after exposure to stressful situation and avoid significant adversary to risk. For example, what happens is you should not go to despair. Then you will have loads of other physical inabilities and problems. And I'm more worried, and I must tell you that as nursing community, if you being the caregiver and you face problems, how are you going to deal with it? What do you say when we go up on the aircraft? They say that in case of emergency, and if the oxygen level falls, you bring the mask down, put it to yourself, and then help your child wear it. So similarly to the community out there, all of you, what is most important is to be first good. So I think I've done some work with a lot of professionals and a lot of community where we do a lot of exercises. And I talk about self-help exercises where even now you must have looked at different kinds of therapies. Like I have given a concept of the optimism attitude model. So there's an OM therapy, which also, and there is that what we introduce in those therapies that you can learn about is, even hypnotic relaxation, which is a mindfulness exercise that I think all caregivers, healthcare workers, they need a lot. So people, remember, each of us need to renew and rejuvenate. Only then we are able to provide. So looking at the resources, acquisition of problem solving skills, self-regulation in terms of what you do in life, how do you discipline yourself in terms of your timelines, what you need to do, how much time. If you have a compelling goal in your mind, like I often say that there could be a dream, the big dream. How do you convert dream into a reality? By giving it a direction and it becomes a goal. So when you have a kind of a dream or a goal in front of you, you need to bring in a little bit of time management and self-regulation. Although these words have become too much of, jargons, very easily understood, but it is most critical that you need to have a self-regulation in terms of what is the time that you want to wake up, how much of time you want to spend on exercise, how much of time you need to, we have talked a lot about creating that network. So how much of time are you going to spend on networking? How are you going to prepare yourself if you are educators that you need to, or you are trainers? How much of your time are you going to spend? Like, so it's becoming one of the most important aspects of self is that self-management and self-regulation. Self-appreciation, go up in front of a mirror sometimes and look at yourself and smile. And I'm telling you, it'll change your day, because you sometimes forget to appreciate your own self. Self-efficacy, learning to accept and, learn how to move on and, be whatever you want to achieve. Positive attachment and relationships, organized home environment. If you have in a very cluttered environment at home, you cannot function in a perfect manner. So you need to create all those, and these are small things and they're all doable. They're the most simple things to do. And in case of young adults or teenagers, there is a huge requirement for, parent involvement, here teacher involvement, and peer group plays a lot of roles. So I think those kind of aspects are also very critical. And positive family climate. I have seen people who are having mild depression to people who are suffering from, little bit of OCDs. People try to be very critical of them. But these are something which can be really treatable. And, today, the common mental health disorders are the most, scary because they are huge in numbers. So if you are able to provide a very good family support environment, I think it is good for the person who is suffering and also for the people who are caregiving. So rather than moving into that critical framework or trying to understand too much, it's all about supporting. So sometimes when somebody comes to you, just listening to the problem solves the problem. Sometimes just giving a patient listening may solve the problem, and that's happening to all of us. Even as an, I must tell you, even as an educated administrator, I have seen that when I'm interacting with sometimes young boys and girls, and I love that age group, by the way. So I've seen that, half the time they do not have place where they need a sounding board. They need people to look after. So I think that is very critical. So this was the model that was, published, and where I say at the core with all of that I showed you in the beginning, they give you the model which is called the PEROMA, which is the optimism is at the center. So like we talk about sixth sense, which is your intuition, I have talked about seventh sense is your optimism and your optimistic intelligence. So just like, so now we are talking about not only that in order to build your resilience, not only do you need the knowledge and the abilities, but you need a lot of change in the attitude and inculcate that optimistic, intelligence in you, which is your seventh sense. So you talk about, so there is a lot of, now work that I'm doing between intuitive learning and optimism. So people who are high on optimistic intelligence, it has been seen that they are very high on intuition. And I think for nursing community, that intuitive learning plays a big role, because you have to be intuitively understanding the requirements of the patient. You have to intuitively understand. So then learning takes place in different ways. And one of the very well researched now is that there's a whole plethora of work. So any of you interested in the area of intuitive learning, you can drop an email, which is something which is it's an upcoming field, and where I think optimism and intuition have a great role to play together. And based on that, one of my models which has been published, and this is something that I want to spend some time with you on this, because, I'm talking about this model is a very simple model, but it talks about just like you have a swalk or a SWOT that you do, I say instead of doing a SWOT, do a leap. How do you do a leap? You can do a leap, each of you today, by the end of the day, after the session is over, whenever you find time, you do your own leap. And where you will amount to in that leap will be your eudaimonic well-being. What is eudaimonic well-being? Eudaimonic well-being, you know, Aristotle has spoken a lot about it, where the well-being doesn't come from the small pleasures, like, okay, I played golf and I'm happy for a while. I won a lottery ticket, but I'm happy for a while. But the holistic well-being, which keeps you on in life, the big purpose in life, the way you are, what are your values, all of that put together is your eudaimonic well-being. So they say that people who are able to inculcate optimistic intelligence or optimism in them, the attitude, that kind of a positive framework, and then you look at each one of you may have a different leap, but we can all have a leap. One leap is L is of course what you love. You know, there could be something, somebody may say, I love, you know, flying aircraft. I love writing poetry. You must do that in life. Then what you excel, what is your expertise? You can say, oh, you know, my expertise is, you know, I'm able to do very good algorithms. I'm able to solve arithmetic problems. I'm able to quickly make a new project proposal. So that becomes, what are you, what is your expertise? You're a computer wizard, you're a communicator. What is your expertise? Then you move into your adaptability and your, you know, global goals. Like, people have to recognize that adaptability to the world environment is so critical. If you close yourself in a box and you look at a very pleasant, everything happening the way you want, you cannot. So your A, you will not pay. So if you have to follow the LEAP model, you have to do all four of them. So what is your L? What is your E? Discover what is your adaptability. What are your global goals? We may say, no, I have my career goals. I don't have a global goal. In my career goals, what am I going to connect to? For example, maybe as a nursing community, you say, okay, yes, I also believe my global goals are spreading good health and well-being. So if that is your global goal, what are you doing to achieve that global goal? In fact, we do a whole exercise on this model where we are able to train people on LEAP. So possibly Dr. Tamil Selvi may someday do this kind of a workshop with all of you, where we'll help you how to identify your LEAP. So often, to get that eudaimonic well-being, to have that resilience, because if you are having that psychological resilience and the strength, you will have eudaimonic well-being. So I want you to spend time on your LEAP. Take a sheet of paper or a nice whatever notepad or your any of your iPad or whatever you want to use, and draw out your LEAP. That what according to you, how do you think is your optimistic intelligence? Because I have spoken about that, which was very important and which was very critical that you need to look at. And then finally, you look at that, how do you build your eudaimonic well-being? So each one of you, I want for you, each one of you to think for about 30 seconds about this whole process, that how do I achieve what I want to achieve in life? If you ask a young adult that what do you want to do, they will say, I want to be rich and famous, right? That's the basic thing. So now you go back. In order to be rich and famous, what all you need to do? What's your LEAP? In order to be whatever you want to do in life, whatever your dreams may be, somebody may say that, I want to be a Nobel laureate. What's wrong in it? You should have a dream. Somebody may think that you're going to create some kind of that eureka moment and discover something. I have a very big scientific temperament. So then what is your LEAP? I want to become the best nursing educator. What's your LEAP? So each one of us have to develop our LEAP for creating that eudaimonic well-being. So I think I would suggest that because you study a lot of psychology, and when in your curriculum, there is a lot of emphasis today, even in the medical new MBBS and other syllabus, there has been a lot of emphasis now being given to this whole aspect of psychological well-being, emotional health, ability to deal with. Now people have seen that in most of the dreaded diseases, like people who are suffering from terminal diseases like cancer, the kind of survival and the way they fight the disease, a lot has to do with their eudaimonic well-being. So people who have been cancer survivors, and through a lot of interactions and interviews that you do, you will see that they're very high on their optimism, their optimistic intelligence. So all that I think is going to play a very critical role that we need to develop. And this is one line that I had written, and this has become very popular with my students. So these are my words. Every time you're happy, you win. So in order to win, you need to be happy. So these are my very favorite words. So I always like to, talk about that. So great. And so I think this is a small presentation that I shared with you. And I hope you will, each one of you would be able to practice and improve your optimistic intelligence and develop in each one of you that hunger for how to be happy, and everything is within you. There is a whole lot of power within you, and that power is nothing but your seventh sense. The ability to look at life in a very different way, the ability to handle the issues around you. And as we speak, I think today is a bright and sunny day in the month of October. We are able on the 7th of October. This day is going, I will remember all the time, because I could speak to so many people from this healthcare community, and I have such a great respect for all the nursing community, the healthcare, public health. I am also part of you because I'm also doing a lot of caregiving. I work in the area of one of my models, like I spoke about, the therapy on home therapy, are being used for patients who are suffering from different diseases. I work on sleep disorders. Then I also look at people who are having the mind mental health disorders, OCDs, then borderline personality disorders. So each one of you must be facing a lot of such challenges. So I think you need to pep yourself up and handle that particular situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for this mind-blowing session. Really, you have explored the newer aspects of well-being, like a LEAP model, so how to self-assess and what is our well-being level. So these are all the new aspects. Really was a wonderful session, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes. And I think I could see once, Monica has
Monica
written
Bank.
something. She's
Yes,
writing
ma'am.
that you spoke about intuitive learning. I believe this is something related to our feeling of sixth sense. Yes, it's
Yes,
very
ma'am.
close to your intuition. And people who have strong intuitive abilities, they use it in their life. That you may have seen that you have learned alphabets all right, but lot of learning in life takes place even intuitively. That you have learned one software, intuitively you're able to move on to another environment, right? So I think, yes, very people have this instinct or having intuition, just wondering how one can develop. I think what developing is listening to your own self, because we are not spending enough time in reflection. I think even as educators or caregivers, are we reflecting in what we are doing? Or we take a case as it comes and we get over with it? Or step 1, 2, step 3, this, step 4, this, and bye-bye. No. Are we analyzing? Are we reflecting on the area? So those are something that we need to look at. Yes. If there are any questions, we can take it. We have a few minutes.
I think there are no questions, ma'am. I think you have answered all their doubts.
Oh, that's a thing. But I think Dr. Tamil, what you mentioned, that we really need to, bring that. A lot of our students, they are doing wonderful because they are in touch with me. They have gone into so many different institutions. We are our interaction with the best of the hospitals. For example, our campus, we are located at Amity University, Manesar, near Manesar in Gurugram. And we are closely associated to all the big hospitals in Delhi NCR, be it Medanta or Fortis, and all of them we are connected. AIMS, we have a very good community and connection with top Max Hospital and everywhere, whatever you name it, all NCR. I'm not mentioning all the hospitals, but we are doing a lot of research work together. So people who are interested to work in this area, I think is going to be very, it's going to be a need of the hour, where people have changed the way things were earlier. So there's somebody is asking at a present
Yes,
scenario, what is the role of resilience in case of COVID? I think I can tell you because it's a very interesting question that the answer is, I mean, answer is all within us. We know that people who had resilience would take a good decision. I'm not saying that, they did not have problems. But when you are stuck in a highway and there is no petrol in your car, and if you panic, you do not even know what you can do because you're in such a panic situation, your mind doesn't work. So what resilience does to you is, okay, I am stuck in a situation that I am, and I'm not able to go to my hometown. I am craving to go and have possibly my idlis, and I'm not able to do it. What do? You have to handle the situation. So what resilience does in COVID times is to help you spring back into action so that you're able to take up, the good decisions, and you're able to, sometimes professional decisions. People are stuck with a lot of, professional issues that we look at. Sometimes so many projects which were supposed to come in, it got stuck at some level. And you feel so, demotivated. Oh my God, my projects are all stuck. What am I going to do? So, I mean, those are the things that we can look at. And some of the things that we can really help is resolve those queries.
Yes, ma'am.
and there
One
is
more question.
another question.
Yeah. Okay.
What is that optimistic thoughts when we really need to start something new? So what are your views on this?
I think it's a very good area because, we have moved from a, knowledge economy to an economy which is on innovation. So we are in an innovative economy. So whenever you think novel, first give a pat on your back that you're able to think something new, because people are stuck by going back in time and just trying to redo what we have done earlier. So every time when you do new, the game is, of course, I told you, you follow first the leap model that first whatever you do, you need to create that well-being around you. Because if people who I've seen who are risk takers, they're very strong emotionally. They have to be, because if they are having a loss by a new thought, they will be able to sustain the loss. So one is find what is your leap. Every one of you sitting here attending the session should create your own leap. And second is that building that network, like I mentioned, that all entrepreneurial ideas have come out because of great, people that you have around. Like you need to have a great network. So that optimism is made out of positive emotion, engagement, how much are you involved in the task that you're doing, the network that you build, and accomplishment, the small wins. So break those big tasks into smaller tasks. So that's how you can create that optimism, and that in turn is going to make you feel happy.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question from Mr. Saurabh. So as per WHO, health is a state of physical, mental and social well-being. But ma'am, during this uncertainty period, we are lacking in maintaining our mental and social well-being. Give us some tips for this.
Okay. Yes, I mean, in fact, if you look at some of the magazines also, I have written a few top things, and I'm sure you all know those tips. There are something which are there, but I can still tell you that one is one of the ways to first and foremost is survival. So being safe. I mean, like, you have to be in an environment which is safe, because you have to go to a place, right? Whenever there is a thunderbolt or a shower, we go somewhere which is more safer. So number one, your home environment, create a very safe, clean, healthy environment where you are there. Even if it is a small space, a lot of people are staying as paying guests, or whatever your space you have, that is number one. Number two is have a good cycle of sleep. Like, whatever. People say there is so much of a debate of how many hours. A lot of people call up and ask, ma'am, how many hours should I sleep? I said, depends on your body clock, but at least to an adult, at least 6 to 8 hours is something that 8 hours, not many of us sleep. But I think solid sleep hours are important. So instead of having the small, cat naps, what is going to be most important is having a particular time to sleep and make a ritual where you can create a proper way where you sleep. Don't get distracted with your, have some time to clean yourself from social media or the digital. So I think, staying away for even an hour in 24 hours from your digital life is important. And then there is another thing, like I talk about the community, your family, people whom you love, people, friends you have. So you need to have a catharsis, you need to have a heart to heart conversation. So spend time doing it. And finally, some time spent on a bit of meditative or any hypnotic relaxation that you can do, of deep breathing, and do it in a very clean, good environment so that you feel refreshed. These are few of the things that you can definitely do.
Thank you, ma'am. I think the participants are full of energy and full of knowledge shower they had. Uh, Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Ma'am, thank you so much. Today you have given a lot of things regarding well-being, mindful meditation, adversities during this COVID-19, resiliences, you have redefined the resilience as an ability to bounce back, and you have explained your model, Paroma model, and you have said optimism is a seventh sense. Have really you follow that one, ma'am, and leap. You have explained leap as the process of model for eudaimonic well-being. So, ma'am, I can tell that you are the knowledge bundle, and you are the example for a spirit and a motivation, ma'am. So, thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening talk. Indeed, psychological resilience is gaining importance in this present scenario of COVID-19 pandemic. It is evident that one has to achieve psychological resilience to perform positively without getting outdated. So I can say that all our participants and not only from Amity College of Nursing, ma'am, all over the country we have got a registration. Nursing professionals and also non-nursing professionals are also present today's webinar. So I must congratulate you, ma'am, and I must thank all the participants who have gathered and who have attended today's seminar. I hand over the session to Ms. Mamta Chauhan for giving the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to all. Honorable Provisi ma'am, respected principal ma'am, organizing team, faculty member, and our dear delegates. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Amity College of Nursing, Amity University, extend a very hearty vote of thanks. I would first like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. P.V. Sharma, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Padmakali Banerjee ma'am, perfect logistic support, guidance, and encouragement that he extends to all of us at conduct this webinar. I also extend my warm thanks to Principal ma'am for her motivation and cooperation in this organization of this event. I would like to express my gratitude to our immense speaker of the day, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee ma'am, for gracing the webinar and sharing with us profound knowledge and understanding on psychological reliance, and highlight the point like ma'am has beautifully give the example about us, about the power of optimist thinking and the power of positive thinking and positive relationship, how we have to go through a power of positivity. So I would really thank you, ma'am. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the immense contribution of our organizing team. My sincere gratitude to Mr. Naveen sir. He's always supporting us during this event, and Ms. Shikha Gulia ma'am and Mr. Rajkumar for his support. I may like to express our sincere thanks to IT support. And at the end, I would extend my wholehearted gratitude to our faculty member and delegates who has joined for us this webinar. Looking forward for our tomorrow's virtual meet. And thank you very much to all. Have a great day. Thank you, sir. Over to sir.
Ma'am, if you permit, we will take one more question, last question we have received.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, from Jai Prakash Kumar. Madam, you talked about intuitive intelligence. As per my experience, intuitive strength surpasses our sensing intelligence. My question, how we can balance both in order to realize our true potential?
Yes, I think it's a good thought what you have and a good question. Actually, we talk about staying in touch with reality principle. Like intuitions are strong. I'll tell you, there are sometimes, even as an administrator, you will take feedback from 10 people, but you take a decision. So that decision that you take is actually based on your intuition, past experiences, your learning, your thought. So when you talk about intuitive understanding, it is a culmination of many things. It is about your past experiences, it's about your knowledge, it's about the ability to think and understand abstract abilities. So what you need to do is be in touch with the reality. When you are going by your intuitions, it's not just you can take a random decision. So intuition coupled with your realities around you, intuition coupled with your knowledge, intuition coupled with your optimism and your attitude will give you results. So what we are looking at nowadays in school life, also in children, if you want to imbibe that spirit of learning, people are moving on to different kinds of competencies. So one of the competencies are now becoming very strong is that of competency of behavioral competency, not just problem solving or just critical thinking, but how good are you in your behavioral and your intuitive learning skills. So that's, I would suggest. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, ma'am. That's it for today's question and answer. Thanks for all the participants. One announcement for the participants. So today is the second day of webinar. We have 2 more days to complete the webinar. On the last day, that is on 9th October 2020, so we will be sending you the webinar feedback link. So kindly you can give your feedback on that day only. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you all the panelists and attendees of today's webinar. Have a good day.